The American Society of Civil Engineers Nigeria section wants the Nigerian government to adopt a national climate resilience infrastructure policy that will mandate all new infrastructure projects incorporate climate resilience measure in line with global best practices. ASCE says the policy would ensure that new infrastructure has flood defense, sustainable drainage systems, and use of climate-adaptive materials, and ensure that Nigeria's infrastructure is prepared for unpredictable impacts of climate change. The president of ASCE, Engineer Austin Odibi, gave the advice at ASCE 2024 Resilient Infrastructure Conference with the theme, Building Climate Resilient Infrastructure in Nigeria, the Key Challenges and Opportunities. Engineer Odibi says the seminar intends to encourage the private sector to invest in sustainable and resilient infrastructure. The national president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, who was represented by the deputy president, Engineer Aliu Rabiu, who led other speakers, called on the government to strengthen building codes and standards to reflect the latest knowledge in climate resilience.
Our idea is to look at the future, typically for stakeholders, look at risk assessment through
and always be abreast of the latest research and global best practices.
Our idea is to look at the future, typically for stakeholders, look at risk assessment through planning purposes, gather data like we have already, the maximum flood, what were the causes, drought issues, sea levels rising, what are the causes? It all winds back to climate change, global warming, and use of fossil fuel. So what do? You plan by assessing this data, utilizing them in your design as professionals. That's the purpose of civil engineering idea or activity. In designing, incorporate that in your design. And of course, during construction, you ensure that materials that are sustainable are utilized for construction. The construction method will also be considered. And of course, the operating the infrastructure to ensure that they can withstand any climate change effect. So if there is flood, no matter the flood effect, they can withstand that.
Collaborate to discuss, to drive climate resiliency or the adoption of climate resiliency, climate adaptation. I think that forums like this should be on the increase. We should do more of gatherings of experts, of infrastructure specialists, and not just the specialists, but even policymakers. If you've made a commitment to enhancing, or if you signed up to, say for example, the Paris Agreement, you have to be deliberate about the actions that you're going to take. You've made commitments, you've pledged that you're going to pursue initiatives in this direction, you're going to need funding. So those conversations need to happen. And the people who are central to those conversations, to facilitating them, need to bring themselves together in the same room and discuss. Make initiatives, develop plans, develop guidelines, so that, and document those things and hold everybody accountable to following all those things that have been developed.
For all professionals to key in, it is very necessary. There must be a synergy between the various professionals in the built environment, engineers, architects, builders, and so on and so forth. All of them must come together to ensure that the whole idea is to ensure that we deliver projects that are sustainable. And so there must be a synergy between these professionals. All witnesses to the disaster that happened in Maiduguri, Borno State recently. And because of the I don't want to say collapse, but what happened to the Alau Dam in Borno State. And if that infrastructure during its design stage, the climate resiliency was taken into consideration, what happened would not have happened. And so it is very important that at this time we design our infrastructure, to cater for, with so much resilience, both for climate and otherwise, particularly at these years of, climate change.